presented last week as part of the financial stability plan, and we'll get into that a little bit later on today. In the Employee of the Month, the Passive Forward Award, Dawn Wink nominated Audrey Lucero, and I know they're not here because Audrey's actually out of town, but do you have the...
I do. Dawn wrote a really lovely piece about nominating Audrey. I nominated Audrey Lucero. I've known and worked with Audrey for 7 years.
Is Audrey here?
No,
She's not here.
Or Dawn? Dawn's here.
Dawn was just here, but today is her daughter's 15th birthday, and so she needed to leave.
Okay.
So she left this statement.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. I could tell you about her amazing work ethic, her sense of dedication, her professionalism, her exemplary reports and work, not to mention her sense of style and heels. I could tell you about all that. I did nominate Audrey for all of this, and for so much more. Audrey Lucero has an amazing sense of making people feel special. Again and again, I watched students, faculty, and staff enter her presence and leave with a lifted spirit. Yes, Audrey always has a smile on her face, takes great pride in her work, and is not only a great colleague, but also a great friend. Her ability to see and highlight the unique qualities that makes a person special speaks to the best of SFCC. This is what Audrey Lucero does every day.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then for the Wild Graham, we had Jeff Hood, who's the director of our Youth Bill program, nominated Jill Douglas, who's our Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs. So come on up, both of you.
Thank you. I'm honored to be able to acknowledge my boss, Jill Douglas. I met Jill primarily last December when Jill was asked to take the reins of a sinking ship, which was the Youth Build grant. And over the course of a month or so of attending staff meetings, I realized this was an exceptional person, and asked her, well, what are you doing about a director? And she said, well, we've just lost him. And so I managed to get myself in there. And I got to say that working with Jill has been more of it's been a challenge and an inspiration and a partnership, I guess I would want to say, Jill. And I couldn't even count the number of times when one of our students has been in meltdown, and these students have nuclear meltdowns. And I would go to Jill in my own form of a meltdown, and Jill would sit and listen to me and ask me a few questions and make a few recommendations and tell me, well, you might want to go talk to this person or that person, or just help me negotiate the whole situation. And always ending it with, what's best for the student? I would say that's your motto. So I want to just take my hat off to you, Jill. And I'm certain that anyone else who reports to you would say the same and want to do the same. And I've got a quote that I want to read. This is from Rachel Naomi Raymond, and it's about listening. You might have read this to me, but I'm going to read it to you instead. She says, listening is the oldest and perhaps the most powerful tool of healing. It is often through the quality of our listening and not the wisdom of our words that we are able to affect the most profound changes in the people around us. When we listen, we offer sanctuary for the homeless parts within the other person. That which has been denied, unloved, devalued by themselves and others. That which is hidden. When you listen generously to people, they can hear the truth in themselves, often for the first time. And I've seen you do that over and over again, and I honor you for that.
Thank you, Jeff. It's a total honor to work with you and to watch you pull that staff together who were on the verge of a nervous breakdown when we came on board, and it's now really humming along. I think it has a lot to do with you. So
Thank you. All right, any public comments? Donna?
Yes, Lance Tunick?
Good afternoon. My name is Lance Tunick. I live adjacent to the school on Dean's Court. I'm here to very briefly talk about the Southeast Connector, speaking for myself as well as a number of my neighbors. We fully agree with the college staff position opposing the proposed route of the Southeast Connector, and the board should vote to oppose that route. But there are two other issues about the Southeast Connector that I request that the board focus on as well. Number one, if the connector is not originally built all the way to Avenida del Sur, that is, if the initial construction stops at College Drive, as was hinted at in July 30th, for whatever reason, be it financial or otherwise, then the purpose behind building the road in the first place, which is solving the traffic problem in the college area, that purpose will not be served. There's no dispute that the community college area has been the victim of very poor road planning and incomprehensible delays in remedying the problem. Of course, it's not the college's fault at all. Given this, building the connector correctly from the beginning is crucial. It means building it all the way to Avenida del Sur. To fail to do so, to build it only as far as College Drive, would mean merely shifting the traffic problem, not solving it. Building only to College Drive would shift some traffic from the part of Richards Avenue north of College Drive. But College Drive would then become ensnarled in traffic, and Richards Avenue south of College Drive, including the main entrance to the school, would remain problematical. Number two, there seems to be a lack of elected official involvement at the county and the state level as regards the planning of this road and the discussions about the road. This is not something that can just be left to staff of Public Works or the Highway Department. There also seems to be a lack of transparency. Why have possible routes to the east of the one that's being proposed not been offered as options? Does it have something to do with the political power of the landowners to the east of the school? Something doesn't sound right. In short, this board has the clout to assure that these issues get a full public airing. The board should exercise that clout, since having the issues heard and intelligently and openly decided is in the best interest of the college. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Tony Flores?
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Mr. President. My name is Tony Flores. I'm the Assistant County Manager for Santa Fe County that oversees project development for the county. I want to thank you all for allowing me a brief opportunity tonight to discuss the project that I was led into recently. We fully understand that it's on the agenda tonight to oppose the current alignment. While we understand the position of the college and our previous discussions in January of the alignment and the subsequent work that was undertaken, we still want to open the dialogue and continue the dialogue with the college to look at the most beneficial and economical alignment for both the county and the college as we move forward on this project. I have to remind the board that we have not determined the final alignment for the northeast-southeast connector. We are very early on, about 75% in the completion phase of the study. We have nowhere near getting close to a design, final acquisition of right-of-way if necessary, or any of those topics. And that's why I think it's important on behalf of the county that we continue to have the dialogue with the community college, with the representative appointed by the community college, so we can discuss your concerns and our concerns in developing this project. There's a misperception that we may or may not complete in its entirety, and that is yet to be determined. Again, we are in the study phase, doing environmental clearances and other, and we have not gone to a design phase, nor have we even received an opinion of probable cost. So at this time, I can't come before the board and tell you it's going to be X dollars or Y dollars. So we would humbly request that we do have that representative assigned by the college to work with us, and that the board, if they choose to act on the resolution tonight opposing the alignment, that we have the opportunity to continue that dialogue and come back with a future presentation. And with that, Madam Chair, I'll stand for any questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mark Hogan?
Madam Chair, I'm also with Santa Fe County and Mr. Flores.
Okay, thank you.
Eric? I'm not. Oh, sorry, okay.
Okay. Anybody else? That's it?
That's it, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Thank you all. The next item, Faculty Senate report.
Hello, everyone. I'm Colleen Lynch, and I'm the Communications Officer for Faculty Senate currently. And this is Megan Hopkins, who is one of our adjunct faculty representatives. And so we're here today to just give a brief synopsis of some of the things we discussed in the meeting. Oh, forgive me.
You're fine.
And of course, you know Phyllis. Right? So, Phyllis Paga. We are some of the officers currently. The current slate of officers includes this group right here. We'll be electing adjunct faculty reps, 3 of them, perhaps including Megan. And Clark is still the chair. Greg Dye is the vice chair this year. I'm communications. Phyllis is secretary and treasurer. And we'll have, hopefully soon, 3 adjunct reps. So thank you for giving me your time. And I'm a little new to this, so forgive me if I'm not being
You're just
totally on it. All right, so today, a few things from the Faculty Senate meeting, which was held in Convocation, our first one of the year. We discussed the financial stability plan, of course, and the faculty looks forward to working with you all to move us to the next phase. And we want to be involved. We hope to continue working through this challenging time and receive information and participation and help us move forward for the students in the best possible way that we can. So we hope to be involved with that. We talked a little bit about adjunct faculty. We had great adjunct faculty representation in the last year, and some wonderful projects have been initiated and almost completed, and we're in the process of looking for some new adjunct faculty reps to join us. Those things include the adjunct faculty survey, the renovations to the office, the AQUIP project. All of these are wonderful things that we appreciate your support for that make this a better place to work for adjunct faculty. The Faculty Senate is still involved with 2 committees that are working on 2 different board policies, including 1-11 on shared governance and 4-12 on faculty workload, and we want to continue to work on those. We hope to have formative and substantial input and to continue to work to make those as strong as possible. We also had a joint meeting with Staff Senate, and so, which is something we hope to do several other times during the year, and I'd like to invite them to come up and join us, please.
we have a hand, Mike?
Yeah, so we went-
You'll pass it over?
It's short. We'll be fine.
Okay, all right. Just talk into the mic because, so that the TV can pick it up.
You may want to slide it back and forth. Thank you.
Move.
It moves.
So there were two main things that we discussed during the joint faculty and staff Senate meeting. The first of those was the part of the financial stability plan that included adjunct faculty who are also staff not being able to teach for compensation between 8 and 5 Monday through Friday. This was one of the things that was brought forward as part of the financial stability plan, and it's a thing that we have questions about. I believe we have a resolution that was written. Can you pass it? I'll read it. So this was supported by all but one, I believe, of the people who were present in the joint meeting, and this is the resolution. It reads as follows. The mandate that SFCC staff cannot teach for compensation during the 8 to 5 Monday through Friday work week is in violation of SFCC policy 4-12 and should not be part of the emergency remedies for the current financial crisis. It needs to be vetted through the shared governance process. We request that it be postponed until this has been done. This is sort of an aside, but I work in the math department, and in the math department we do have several staff members who work with us, and they're a very valuable part of our team. And we feel strongly that they complete their staff jobs and that they also offer a valuable connection between the faculty and the staff and the student support services that they work in. So those kind of roles go beyond them being in the classroom and them doing their jobs on campus, and we think they do them all very well. So that's just a personal aside.
The other resolution was a resolution to form a joint, did we come up with it, was it a task force or a council or a committee? Financial Oversight Committee that will be a joint task force committee of both the faculty and staff senate. And we look forward to working in some cooperation, however that be determined, with the board committee that's also working in that area. We think that we understand we're in a very difficult situation right now as a college, and the faculty and staff, I think, by most counts, are taking one for the team with a very good attitude and real positive outlook. But at the same time, it's our expectation that we want to play a stronger role in making sure that could never happen again, and also monitoring and helping to keep the morale up by giving regular updates as to how we are doing, how successful is this program. Hopefully we can say, hey, it's October and we can stop the pay cuts already, but but if that's not true, we would like to at least have some sense if this is something that's going to drag on beyond what the anticipated thing, and also look at smaller solutions. Some of the things that have popped up are that people who might have been thinking about retiring this year, the pay cut they take this year will affect them for their entire period of retirement. And so we'd like to look at solutions for problems like that where we can not hurt people in the long term for a short term problem of the college. And there's a variety of different little scenarios like that we'd like to look at. And we hope and we anticipate with our brilliant faculty and staff here at the college that we will come up with all kinds of really neat ideas of how to save money and generate more income for the college. So we're looking forward to that as an opportunity.
I think it's also an opportunity for us to learn more about the big picture of the college and how it functions, the finances, and we are eager to play a role and do what we can to help support the institution and the students.
Let me just throw a thank you. And we want to thank all of you for all of your support, everything that you've been giving us, the content, etc. And And we do realize, and we've already had affirmation, that we may not have the knowledge behind us or the expertise yet to understand everything that's happening, but we've already had offers of professional development for whoever's interested so that we can start reading budget sheets. We can understand, what each of these terms mean, things like that, anyone who's interested. But we really thank you for all of your transparency, everything, all the resources, and just this sort of thing, allowing us to come and ask for these kind of things and make motions. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, just sit.
Yes, ma'am.
Some comments, questions from the board? Anything?
I have a comment.
Yes.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for your eagerness to assist in resolving our situation. We're defined as a community college. We are a community. And the only way we can resolve this is by full participation. And so we look forward to your advice and help within the scope of our responsibility as a governing board. And I think that President Grisham has already taken some very positive steps in terms of maintaining that openness, that dialogue between the administration, between the faculty and the staff, and we're committed to that. We're committed to ensure that we're going to do our part so that you can also be informed of what's transparent, what is transpiring, because after all, this has affected every single one at the Santa Fe Community College. It's affected our community as well. So we are committed to ensure that we're going to be on firm footing. We've had to take some regrettable steps, but this is the only way we're going to be able to fix the situation that we're in. So again, I would ask that you continue to have a positive outlook, because as a community, we are going to resolve our financial situation.
Thank you. Chris?
I ditto a lot what he says, but Colleen and Janelle, because I've worked with you, you know that my heart is with faculty and staff, and it's one of those things that I don't know if you guys, when you retire, you'll ever come on the board, but there's such a bigger picture of things. And so don't give up. That's what my thing is, and you're doing exactly the right thing, coming together as faculty and staff, asking the right questions, and not feeling, I believe this, and I think the rest of the board do, not feeling that you're going to be punished, or that there's going to be some kind of black cloud over you because you say what you say. I appreciate that, and I think it's really important that you continue doing that, and like I said earlier today, is that we encourage as many adjunct staff, adjunct faculty, and faculty and our staff members to be involved, because that's what we're about, and we are about. You guys are the community, really. You guys are the community, and not just the community here at the college, but out in Santa Fe. And so I know that, you guys know that, and I don't know about the other three because I didn't work with you, but I know these two ladies here love the students as much as I did, and I know that the bottom line is we have to have a really quality school for the students, so thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Well, I appreciate you coming forth as the faculty and staff senates and bringing ideas and resolutions. I think that there will be a way that the Finance Committee can work with some representatives from both the staff and faculty, and you all will be educated, we will be educated, and we will create a system where what has happened will not happen again. And I think it's important that you want to be involved. And so I think we'll talk more about how that can happen in a fairly quick way, because the Finance Committee is going to be very active from this moment on. And Randy, I think you wanted to say.
Yeah, I want to thank not only the faculty and staff Senate officers, but all the faculty and staff. It's been a very tough time. Most people have been pretty understanding of, we got into a situation that we have to get out of, and we will get out of it. I'm really excited about the fact that faculty and staff wants to help participate as we go forward. Now that we have a plan in place, we need help monitoring it. We need help getting new ideas, and we've been getting lots of ideas through our new Jack portal. Almost too many to read some days, but there's some great ideas out there, and we want to work on that, and I'm really excited about that. And I think and I'm really glad to hear that you want to learn more about the finances of the college. You know, it's not easy to understand, and even those of us, like Megan and I, we both have an accounting background, it's still a little crazy because it's opposite of what you learn in accounting for a for-profit business, because it's governmental accounting. And so I'm excited about that, and I look forward to working with you on that and having you be involved not only with the board finance committee, but I want to expand the small tiger team that I put together to help really look at the problem and to help start coming up with some proposed solutions. I want that team to go together and to help us track our progress and also be able to communicate accurately with the college community if we're not making the progress we need to make. And I think we can all help each other in this, so I appreciate that offer.
Thank you.
Does anybody want to say anything about the issue of the part-time, or the staff adjunct faculty?
I just want to add on the part, and it's not necessarily 8 to 5, it's during your normal work hours. You know, we can respectively disagree on things at times. I do think it is something that we've got to make sure everybody is doing the job they were hired to do, which is needed full-time at this present time especially. And I do want people to be able to teach, but we also have to be careful about paying people to do things during the same time period. And I am concerned that some people that have been doing it may have been on restricted funds. That is a real issue for us, and others. And so, you know, I think I'm not going to agree with you on that recommendation, but I respect your opinions on that, and we'll see how we go forward with it. But I think for this year, my recommendation still is to stick with that recommendation going forward. But that's my opinion.
Martha?
Yeah, I would echo President Grissom's comments about that. I think the board has made a decision looking at all the figures, trying to figure out, you know, where is there space for us to find the resources that we need. And one of the things that I think when we are short-staffed, as we are planning to be, it's really important that staff people with full-time jobs have full-time jobs, and that those full-time jobs are fully appreciated and completed. And if the opportunity arises for those folks to teach after hours, or if they can teach on Saturdays, as we often have classes, then I fully support that we have some very talented staff people who should be given that opportunity. So this is a tough year. Lots of decisions that we've made are not pleasant for everybody, but for anybody really. But I think that when we try to fix the issue within a year's time, we've had to take some pretty severe measures. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate your conversation about it. I appreciate your feedback. We'll certainly look forward. I'm not on the Finance Committee, but I'm glad that you're willing to work with the board members who are on the Finance Committee and perhaps find some additional ways that we can be helpful to each other.
Are we permitted
Sure.
to respond? Go ahead, Phyllis.
I wear neither hat, and I have no bias towards one way or the other for this particular one. But what I'm hearing from everyone, and again, this was just today, it was a matter of almost definition of the people who are able to switch their 8 to 5, but make up the time. Like, they're accountable to their whole 40 hours. But the question was, with their boss, or supervisor, understanding that they're making up their time from 5 to 7 and yet teaching a 1 to 3 class. And again, I may have misread or heard a lot of the stuff because I wear no hat on either call on this one, but that seemed to almost be the crux of it, the accountability of that employee putting their 40 hours not necessarily in the 8 to 5 or whatever normal work period, plus the supervisor agreeing that they are doing their whole 40 hours, but in a 10-hour workday per se. And that was just my understanding of what I heard, where there's kind of a little bit of a difference. And again, I have no feeling one way or the other. It's just what I heard today.
Thank you for that. And I think that, we delegate all those responsibilities for accountability to our president, and he delegates to the other managers, and I'm sure that'll all get worked out.
Chris?
Since I was here in 1985, that's been happening a lot. And one of the things that I brought up that I think is really important, that it's equal throughout. And that's the problem that I saw within my 20 years of employment here, is that some bosses were allowing something and other bosses weren't. I think if it were some kind of policy or whatever we need to do so that it's equal for everyone, not just assistant to whatever, but maybe it might be the domestic, it might be the person in the kitchen, it should be everyone. It should be equal to everyone. And that's, to me, within the 20-some years that I was there, it just didn't happen that way. So what I'm looking at, and what, maybe things within this next year are going to be a lot stricter, and they're going to be very much more confined. But I think that I agree with Martha. I think that we have talented staff members. We know that they're working within the computers or the fitness center or whatever, because I've known you to do that. I've seen it. But the thing is, I think that it has to be equal throughout, and I don't think it was. I personally don't think it was. So if we could get the suggestion maybe from faculty and staff to come up with a thing that says, this is the way we'd like to do it. We need something from administration that says, this is the policy we're going to follow. You're going to have it written out. We're going to document the hours, whatever they are. We're going to whoever's going to be the person that's going to say, oh yeah, that they're working from 5 to 7 because they're teaching from 1 to 3, and I'm monitoring it, and here's what it is. That's what my thing was, and I think that's important, to be upfront about it. To be really upfront about it, because it somehow didn't work before when I was here. Maybe things have changed. I don't know, But
Thank you. Kathy?
One more quick comment. I don't want to be quiet and assume that I don't have an opinion on this, so I'm just going to weigh in real quickly and also say thank you to the faculty and the staff for coming forward and being a part of the solution. We're all in this together over the next 10 months of making some hard decisions and then monitoring and making sure that our hard decisions are paying off on the other side and the college gets to where it needs to be over the next 10 months. So really appreciate your partnership in that. The other thing I would really like to encourage you to do is to be involved in what's happening at the college and understand the finances better. I think that is great. I know that yesterday there was some information handed out about about the plan, the stability plan, questioning it. That's okay. It's everybody's allowed to do that, but I would really encourage faculty and staff to come back and ask questions and not take anyone's opinion just at word, and to ask some questions and get some answers, because there are two sides to every story. So thank you.
Any other comments, questions? All right. Thank you very much for your ideas. So that took care of faculty and staff,
Let me
and
introduce it.
yes, please, our staff, our student rep.
So we have a new person sitting at the table today.
We didn't actually do our report
Oh,
yet.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
I don't think we'll be very, very long.
That wasn't enough? You have more?
Well, that was the joint presentation from faculty and staff, so. So one thing we wanted to do is publicly thank the board for their good input and from the president as well on the Constitution. We're kind of the guinea pig. The staff senate is going first in rewriting our Constitution, and we understand that the faculty and the students are also doing similar things, and it's taking much longer than we had hoped, but I think it's a really good thing, and I think, and we'll find out what the rest of the staff thinks, that it was excellent input, and we'll come up with a better, stronger Constitution for it. So we are working. We had a really good conversation today with the new HR director. She came to our meeting and was very open and very receptive. And we've been working for about a year now on coming up with a very good set of things that we're concerned about that are HR related issues, not individual, but broader person. And she was very excited to see that we've organized it so she doesn't have to play whack-a-mole with individual complaints, that we've set it all out and organized it. So I think it will help, and we're not in a desperate hurry. We understand that there's a lot to be worked out, and we're working with her, and I think it's going to be a great collaboration in that area, and I think our work will help her, and her work will be informative to us.
I think that's all we have.
Okay. The other thing, I did want to address, since in the vein of Chris saying don't give up earlier today, and you guys appreciating our input, I will have to disagree with the board if they believe that this is a good idea to go forward with the policy, or not a policy change, but actually a change in the way of implementing policy, which we have a very good policy for how 411 on how staff can, and we have a policy, it's been implemented for many years very effectively, and there are constraints and guidelines on how to keep people from double dipping and how to make sure that people are filling in their hours. And it is a semester by semester approval from your supervisor. So obviously anyone who is not making up their time should be reprimanded, should be disciplined, but certainly should not be given an opportunity to teach again the following semester. So I think every semester there's another opportunity to say, hey, you didn't fulfill your duties. The suggestion, some staff were very insulted by the idea that somehow for years they've been doing this very effectively, and now it's suggested that somehow it's double dipping, which I think almost everyone, there may be exceptions, and there probably are, of people who their supervisors were not keeping track of whether or not they were making up the hours, and that the supervisor should be disciplined for failing to supervise their employees. So I think, but I think the most important thing where everyone's approaching this as part of the benefit of financial savings for the college. And I would like, at the very minimum, for someone to come up with documentation of what the dollar figure you're associating with that is and why. Because our estimates are that if a staff person does not teach the course that would not save the college any money, because we have to then find another instructor and pay them. So no savings happened there. The only potential savings would be a staff person who was not fulfilling their 40 hours and was teaching during regular hours, that we might get more work out of them. But if they're not motivated enough to work their hours and beyond, somehow I think they're going to find some other way to not fulfill their hours anyway. So I think we need to really look at that carefully. The other thing is what I'm hearing more and more, and we heard this and we were concerned about it, but the farther we get in, the bigger the problem becomes. Now I'm hearing from a lot of chairs and from a lot of lead faculty that they have full classes that were going to be taught by adjunct staff who are now saying, I'm not sure I can still do that. And now we have a week out from semester start, and we have classes that are overloaded with students who we may not have an instructor for. So while the financial plan was supposed to not affect students and not lead to cuts in programs and classes that are making may have to be canceled, directly affecting student success and student ability to make it through their program. So I think we have to really look at that, and I'm hoping the president and the board will take a really long, hard look at that and see, are we really saving money? Is this really achieving what we're shooting for, or maybe is this part of something that, had it been vetted through a better governance process, we might have been able to find a better solution than this? So I'm hoping you will keep an open mind and consider whether or not this possibly could be rescinded in this semester. And I know it's not easy to publicly do something and then decide not to do it later, but I think this is a case where all the staff and faculty resolution suggests is pull it back and put it through the proper shared governance vetting process so that we can look at that and find out whether it really saves us any money, whether it really has a negative effect on instruction at the college. So I think that's mostly what I had to say about it. But I do hope that you will genuinely hear it's not often you're going to get unanimity among the faculty and staff senate. That's a very unusual thing. And I'm concerned about morale. I'm concerned about students who are planning to move through to graduate not being able to take courses that they need to. I'm concerned about stress it's putting on chairs and on some of our leads, some of whom had other plans next week, and suddenly are spending time scrambling to find new instructors who may not be the best instructor for that class, just to make sure it can get taught. So I hope you will consider that and keep an open mind and try very hard to see if there isn't a way. I don't really believe there's a lot of cost savings involved in this program. And if somebody can prove me wrong, I will listen to that. But I hope you'll dig in deep and find out, are we really saving that much money? And is it necessary, or is it something we could look at later in the semester and revisit it?
All right, thank you very much. Okay, our student
Now I
government.
want to introduce the new person sitting at our table today with the hat on. This is Eugenia Bocalandro. Are you the vice president for student government?
I am indeed, yes.
So Willie Torres Longo, who is normally here, is out of state. And so Eugenia is sitting here, and you're going to give us the student government report.
Yes. Madam Chair, President, community members, faculty. We had our first training as the Student Government Association, a 2-day training with Janet Berry. It went very well at IAIA campus. We learned some of the intrinsic rules of Robert's order. We're learning how to navigate through them. It makes me feel very British. I'm from Venezuela, so it's a very different hat for me. But it was a very good training. Sitting here and listening to the efforts of the staff and the faculty in pulling together and working together with the college and the board during these stressful financial times, I know that I speak for fellow students that we too want to learn more about the finances and understand what happened and how we can protect our school from that happening again. And I also want to commend the faculty and the staff for serving us students. I am troubled to hear that some courses may have to change or be canceled, or instructors that wouldn't necessarily be the best instructor can't teach that because of what's being discussed. I do know that fellow students that are on a certain track and need a particular class to be able to graduate inside that time period, they need to be served. And so I just also want to reiterate and underline Mr. Wilson's request to look at how we can do that and not cancel or change classes that could make a student not be able to graduate during their time when they've allotted that. We discussed the importance of the approving the student budget and unfreezing the funds that have been frozen. That was a concern. We'd like to ask the board what, as students, government, what we can do to help facilitate that. In addition to understanding more about the student involvement director or the student activities or development, there's a lot of names and I'm not sure which one it is, but how they're funded and how the Student Government Association budget, that the fees that are collected, $1 per credit, how that's divided. So we'd like to know more about that. And otherwise, I'm happy to be here, and I'm grateful for the volunteer time that all of you put in these meetings and for the presence of our community here. Any questions or discussion? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make a comment.
Okay.
I want to make it perfectly clear to everybody who's here, and I know there's people from the media here, we do not plan to cancel any classes. The only classes we plan to cancel will be the usual ones if we don't get adequate student enrollment. Every semester we have faculty that we lose the week before a semester starts, and sometimes we can't replace those faculty. We always try to. It is not our intention to cancel any classes. The whole purpose of the design of our financial stability plan is to have minimal impact on students and instructional programs. And so that is not our intention to cancel any classes. We actually may employ more adjunct instructors this year because we might cover some new adjunct instructors for classes that staff would have taught. If a staff person can do their job, we save money by having them teach as part of their load if they have a regular load. That saves us dollars. Otherwise, we pay an adjunct instructor or we pay that staff instructor an adjunct rate. The whole purpose of trying to go this route for right now is to have people who can and whose supervisors approve that are staff people teach during their work hours as part of their normal load. They're already getting paid for a 40-hour week in most cases. If they want to teach outside of their normal work hours, we'll pay them extra. That's one of the savings that we can try to encounter for this year. So but I want to make sure nobody thinks we're canceling classes because of this. We're not canceling classes because of this.
Okay. Catherine.
I also, I hear you loud and clear that the students are eager to solve the issue over the student fees. We had started that discussion late in the year, last year, and then the Student Senate, isn't here during the summer months. So obviously school starts next week and we need to get back on that conversation and resolve it quickly so that everybody has some answers and can move forward.
And I believe we have a budget item in the bar that addresses the student fee.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I just have a comment. I would encourage the faculty, the staff, and to really come to our meetings. And if you have any questions, bring them up here. I think the worst thing that can happen to our community college is rumors. And rumors that are not valid. And I can tell you, as a board member, that when we're going through this process of this stabilization plan, we were completely focused on our students. That's our commitment, to enhance and provide students with the best affordable educational opportunity in the state of New Mexico. So that really bothers me when rumors, unfounded rumors, begin to spread throughout the college that cause a panic. You heard it from the president that there are not going to be any classes canceled. And yes, this has happened before, I'm sure, before we had the financial classes. If we had few enrollment in those classes, they had to be canceled. Those things are normal. So I would encourage your participation at our board meetings. I'd like to, us having to have more chairs. We have almost a full house today. I'd like to see more chairs added to this boardroom. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Approval of the consent agenda, which includes 3 minutes of work sessions and regular and special board meetings.
Madam Chair, I move approval of the consent agenda.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, approval of financial report. Now, we have discussed these in our work session, but who's coming up to give that?
You want to come up?
You didn't know that was part of the job too, did you?
Madam Chair, if you want me to, I'll do the highlights.
Okay,
and we can
that'd
have
be good.
Anita Rainey, who's our interim controller, respond to anything.
Questions?
A couple of things I want to just point out on the report. As of July, this is July 31st, we had the board meeting a week earlier than normal, so getting together the report for July was a little bit more extra effort than normal. But I do want to report to you that as of July 31st, we have about $8.4 million, just over $8.4 million of total cash in the bank. Of that total, $5.8 million is restricted. It can only be used for restricted projects. And then we have so that leaves about $2.7 million in unrestricted cash. I want to remind everybody that we spend between $3 and $4 million every month on payroll and other expenditures. So that's not a large cash balance to have on hand at this point in time. We anticipate needing about $3.5 million for August, and $2.6 million is not $3.5 million. We do get our state appropriation the first week of the month. Typically, we will be collecting tuition and fees as we go through the month of August. The other thing that really I think are just some highlights are, as of July, we're about 8% finished through the year. Thus far, we have brought in about 11% of our revenues, so we're slightly ahead on revenues, and we've spent 6% of the original budget. So we're doing a little bit better than would be expected in that respect. And then, if you look at our public service categories, most of them are where we'd expected them to be. Not a lot of revenues come in the month of July, but there are expenses in July. So we have a little more subsidy showing up in places like the kids campus and the bookstore, which I think is actually later. But that's kind of where we stand on those.
And Mr. President, hopefully we can get a report on the kids campus next board meeting.
And just remind everybody, I think we've mentioned this in a public meeting before, with funding from the Brindle Foundation, we have a person and a team working on a comprehensive business plan, looking at our kids campus and our early childhood education program, how we can combine those, including working more closely with the Small Business Development Center to create what we would call a center of excellence. And we hope to have that report available sometime this fall for you. The other, I think, key thing to point out is that our receivables are a little lower than they've normally been. We've been making a good effort, but we have about $1 million of grant and contract receivables owed to us. I do want to just remind everybody that for most of our grants, we spend the money, so we have to pay the cash, and then we seek reimbursement. And our federal partners always pay, but they're not always fast in paying. So we have to finance those grants. But we like having those grants, and we hope to be getting more of those in the near future. But having $1 million owed to us at the end of July is actually a little improvement over what we've seen in the past. And then we only have about $70,000 of receivables that are not grant receivables. So it's a fairly small amount.
Question, Martha?
I don't have a question, but we talked earlier in the work session about where faculty and staff and other administrators can find the figures that we've been reviewing in the work session. So can you talk a little bit about that, Mr. President?
Right. So on Jack, normally, not this time because we didn't get the financials ready today, but our financials are normally out there as part of the agenda for the work session. We're also going to be working, as we've talked in several meetings today, we're going to be creating some way to share our progress towards meeting our goals in the financial stability plan. So we're going to be posting some materials out there. I hope to post some materials out there that relate to where we got the numbers, that were in the assumptions that we needed the $3 million, we needed the $2 million. And so we hope to get that out there fairly soon. Obviously, we can't identify individual people's names, even though, we're all public records here. But we don't want to put those kind of things necessarily out there. So we'll be getting that out there fairly soon. I'll also be posting out there our cash flow analysis. And we have a cash flow analysis that looked at every month this fiscal year. And we looked at, okay, what happens with the budget we had originally done and knowing where we started, and we end up in a very big cash hole in October, November, and December, and again towards the end of the year. And then we put in, okay, what happens if we do all the cuts that we did, the reduction in supplies and expense, keep the vacancies, the restructuring, and the cuts in pay, and we still end up in a hole in October and November. So we've gone to the state to ask for an expedited appropriation, no new money, but an expedited appropriation. And if we can get that, we can have a positive number in November and December, October and November when we had the questionable thing. But it's a very close situation. So we will be putting together, our plan is to put together a package to apply for a loan to the State Board of Finance. That will have to be approved by the board in a special session between now and early September, and we hope to be on the agenda on September 16th to borrow up to $500,000 from the State Board of Finance. But we hope to get all these materials put together in a form that they can be read. A lot of them are papers that some people look at them and have no idea what they meant, and get those posted fairly soon.
Thank you. Are there any questions? We did go through this quite thoroughly. Anything you would like to add?
Nothing. I think we're on the right track. We just need to keep going.
Right. Can I have a motion to approve the financial report of July 14?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Internet service. This is a cost saver.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, Mr. President, and members of the board, we would like to request for approval of the governing board to enter into a 3-year agreement with an option to extend for another year the internet service contract for the SFCC main campus and the Higher Education Center, which will start in January, between Santa Fe Community College and RediNet, which is part of the North Central New Mexico Economic Development District. So to just give a brief explanation, right now we are using CenturyLink as our internet service provider, and we have done our due diligence to work with CenturyLink to get their quote and give us their best possible option, and at the same time work with RediNet to give us their best possible option. RediNet is a non-profit public organization, and therefore, since they're also non-profit just like us, they're basically no markup with regards to the services that they charge us. So right now we have 200 Mbps internet speed, but once we have this new agreement, we're going to have 600 Mbps internet speed here in the main campus, and there will be a gigabit interconnection between the Higher Education Center and Santa Fe Community College. The way we did this is because we will not have a full-time IT staff at the Higher Education Center, and we want to manage the Higher Education Center remotely from the college. So that in itself is a cost savings with this infrastructure. Aside from that, right now we are paying CenturyLink for our existing service $11,100.40 plus taxes. But once we enter into an agreement with RediNet, it will be $9,741 per month plus applicable charges of applicable taxes, of course. So in the long run, with better services, it will be more with better services and lesser cost. So it will be cost effective for the college, and it will directly benefit our students and our partner institutions at the higher education center. So we've been working with this together with the purchasing department. Mr. Andy Dadio helped us in looking at the contract and in reviewing the contract with our lawyer, and at the same time look at our existing terms of agreement with CenturyLink. Thank you.
And you said that immediately we would go to the 600 gigabytes?
Once the contract is approved, Redinet will start doing the construction and putting all the infrastructure together so that we can switch over to them. Our goal is to come by, if not middle of December, first part of January, to move to Redinet completely, both the main campus and the HEC once it becomes online. It takes some time, and based on the experience of the college, as somebody has told me, during the time of transition from an old provider to CenturyLink like 4 years ago or 3 years ago, there was a downtime that affected classes. And so we want to do this when there are no classes as much as possible. Because we want to have less impact on our classroom instructions, as more and more classes nowadays are leveraging the internet for classroom for enhancing content inside the classroom.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to move that we approve the contract with Redinet.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Kathy, did you want to?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just wanted to talk about conflicts of interest, or at least perceived conflicts of interest. And say that my organization that I work for, the Regional Development Corporation, has been involved in the creation of Redinet. So the connection between those organizations is my organization completed a strategic plan called READY, which is a 20-year economic development strategic plan for the region of northern New Mexico. Our community's first priority in that plan under infrastructure was building a high-speed broadband network. So we applied for federal funding through the Commerce Department in the time of ARRA funding and secured that funding. However, that has now, there is now a private board, a public board actually, that regulates ReadyNet as a broadband system in northern New Mexico, and my organization is no longer involved, and we have no financial gain from that system. So I just wanted to make that clear before I vote on it today.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, before I forget,
Yes.
there will be a non-recurring cost of $15,683 to build this infrastructure, and the President has already secured a grant or a fund for this through the Los Alamos National System Security something that will cover for the higher education technology infrastructure and internet bandwidth.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Board election.
All right. The approval of the resolution for the board election. Do you want?
Yeah, I'll say a few words on this. So we've talked for many years about having joint elections with the Santa Fe Public Schools. So right now we have a plan to try to do so next February. So there is a resolution that is on our board agenda for tonight and will be on the public school board agenda. I believe it's for next Tuesday night to have a joint election. It would be next February. By law, the public schools have to have their election on the first Tuesday in February. We've normally had ours in March. So we would have it one month early, but whoever is elected or reelected at that time would take office as usual in April. So the resolution calls for holding a joint election this next February between Santa Fe Community College and the Santa Fe Public School District. And the date would actually be February the 3rd, 2015.
And one of the main reasons for this is to save both the community college and the public schools money, because it costs each of us $40,000 or $50,000 to open all the precincts for a day when very few people turn out to vote. So perhaps holding them together will increase voter turnout and save everybody money and save the county clerk a lot of trouble holding 2 elections 1 month apart.
Do we,
Madam Chair?
do we need to read the resolution or not?
Do we need to read it?
I don't think so. It's been
It's been in the
it's in
agenda.
the packet, it's on the web, and it just says that we agree to hold it together in essence.
So I would move that we approve the resolution to hold a joint board election with the Santa Fe Public Schools February 3rd of 2015.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I just want to say how happy I am that we're doing this. I think it's good public policy, and there are many good reasons for it. One of those, I think, to highlight is that we will have an election that's all about education. And I think it's a great time for our community to be able to focus on the investments that we make in education and what we get from those investments. So I'm really happy that this is happening and supportive of it.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Skip the next one.
And the next one is the Constitution. Oh, here it is, the Southeast Connector. Okay. A
So,
little summary, Randy?
So, Madam
Mr.
Chair,
President?
as we've heard before, there's been a lot of discussion about where the Southeast Connector Road should be located. The county has done some staking of one of the proposed sites, which cuts right through our ropes course, and in our opinion, comes much too close to the campus. We don't want our students to have to cross a major thoroughfare to get from the fitness center to the ropes course or other areas. And so it is our recommendation that we encourage the county to consider alignment that's further east. We are certainly open to working with the county closely on this. And I have somebody that we will designate to be the permanent interface with the county as we move forward. But our recommendation is to not support the current proposed location, and that we would like to see it go further east.
Okay.
So
Is there
I
a
would,
motion?
yes, I would move that the Santa Fe Community College oppose the current route selected, and that we join with our fellow landowners to request that the county work with all of us to develop a route that can accommodate the needs of our residents, our students, and the business interests in the area.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just want to say that I think I support this tonight, and that we're taking a time out and really looking at what's best for the college and standing up what's best for the college. I understand the proposed route that the county has put in place, and I agree that for a short-term fix, it's probably a good decision for them to make, but I think in the best interest of the college, we have to look long-term. If we look at where this college has come in the last 30 years in building a student base and what exponential growth we've had, we need to understand that the college will continue to grow that way, and we have the opportunity to put infrastructure in. We need to build that infrastructure to accommodate what this college is not going to be in 5 years, but in 10 years and 20 years down the road. And I really don't want to sell the college short for what could be a short-term fix, but doesn't help us at all in the long term in addressing some systemic issues that we have with traffic in a growing community in the community college district.
Thank you. And I think, too, that our neighbors, the landowners are all concerned about the location, and so we are committed to continue to discuss with the county what's the best for the growth and development that's only going to occur out in the southern part of the county here. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, I need the paper thing. All right, next. Thank you all for coming. Thank you. The bar number 1 for the new fiscal year.
Madam Chair, I'm going to ask Amy Tilley to come up in case there's questions that I'm not able to fully answer. But We have put together our budget adjustment request number 1 for fiscal year 15, our current fiscal year. It's based upon the financial stability plan that was approved last week. And so this builds into our budget all the changes that we talked about. I want to talk about some of those in detail. Number 1, it increases tuition by $5 per credit hour effective with the spring 2015 semester. So that increases both in-district, in-state, out-of-district, and out-of-state tuition by $5 per credit hour. I'm also recommending that we change the Student Government Association fee to be called the Student Government Association and Student Activities fee, and that it be increased from $1 per credit hour to $1.50 per credit hour, with 2/3 of the funds going to the Student Government Association and budget and 1/3 going to the Student Activities budget effective with the spring semester. And then the rest of the activities in there are the things that were in the financial stability plan, including the reduction in supplies and expense, removing the funding for the vacant positions that will remain vacant, removing the funding for the positions that were impacted by the restructuring effective with their last date of employment in that position, and reflecting the reduced salaries starting August 23rd with no one making under $30,000 being impacted, those making 30 up to 40 having a 2% reduction, 40 up to 75 having a 4% reduction, those making 75 up to 100 having a 6% reduction, and those making 100,000 or greater having an 8% reduction, effective August 23rd and lasting through the end of the fiscal year, unless it's determined we can end that sooner. By doing this, by doing this, one of the things I would say, we end the year with about $1.236 million as our ending fund balance. It's a little lower than we would like to see, but from a cash standpoint, we have the cash to meet our needs. And we'll stand for questions, I guess, after we make the motion.
How about the board member?
Thank you, Mr. President, for your summary. Therefore, Madam Chair, members of the board, I move that bar number 1 for the FY15 budget be approved, including the following: tuition to be increased by $5 per credit hour effective with the spring 2015 semester. In-state and in-district regular rate increased from $39.50 to $44.50 per credit hour. In-state but out-of-district regular rate increased from $51.50 to $56.50 per credit hour. Out-of-state regular rate increased from $98 to $103 per credit hour. Required fees: Student Government Association fee changed to Student Government Association and Student Activities fee, and increased from $1 per credit hour to $1.50 per credit hour, with 2/3 going to fund the Student Government Association budget and 1/3 going to the Student Activities effective with the spring 2015 semester. Decrease expenses as presented in the financial stability plan. Most department supplies and expense budgets reduced by 30%. Remove funding for identified vacancies. Remove funding after termination date of positions subject to restructuring, reduction in force. Effective August 23rd, 2014, reduce all salaries for Santa Fe Community College employees by the percentages below. Below $30,000, no reduction. From $30,000 up to $40,000, 2% reduction. From $40,000 up to $75,000, 4% reduction. From $75,000 up to $100,000, 6% reduction. 100,000 or greater, 8% reduction. That is my motion, Madam Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there further discussion? I have a question. The tuition increase places us at $44.50 an hour for in-state, and where does that place us in comparison to other community colleges?
We are still $5 per credit hour less than C&M. We will be more than the lowest still, which are Luna, New Mexico Junior College. But we have some of the branch campuses that are $67 a credit hour and higher. So we're still $30 less than many of them.
And the tuition amount, total amount, is based on a flat credit hours for this budget year?
For this budget year, one of the things that we do want to look at for next budget year is potentially going back and charging for, if you take 12 to 18 hours, you pay for 12. We were not able to complete that analysis this year, but that is something we want to look for next year. We think that's a way to encourage students to take more hours and complete faster. So I'm hoping for FY16 we will actually go to that structure, and that you would pay for 12 hours, that if you take up to 18, you wouldn't pay any more. If you went over 18, you'd start paying extra.
And we're assuming overall there will be no increase in the number of total credit hours for this fiscal
Madam Chair,
year.
members of the board, our projection for this year is to have flat number of credit hours. We do have to stay on top of that. It could be that we will always do another budget adjustment sometime later in the year. If it looks like we start seeing a decrease in the number of credit hours, we would have to revise our tuition revenue estimate. At this time, although we're still slightly behind on for this fall, we still haven't registered any of our dual credit students yet, and we still have a lot of students coming in. So I'm expecting fall to be somewhat flat. We were up almost 6%, I believe, for the summer, so we're ahead of the game for this fiscal year.
All right, any other, yes?
Madam Chair, I know that this contains the student fee proposal in it that we're being asked to approve. I have somewhat of a concern that we haven't had a chance to meet with the students and discuss the proposal yet. So I'm just asking, Mr. President, if you can do that, if you can meet with them and explain that policy with them and get their feedback.
Madam Chair and Member Keith, we did get feedback from Willie Torres-Longo, who is the student body president. He actually recommended that we go higher than I am recommending, so that is something that I'd be open to having a discussion with student government about if they do want to go higher and why. I just didn't want to impact students any more than we had to this year.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of equipment inventory.
Madam Chair, this is Andy Daddio, and every year we have to approve our capital asset inventory, so I'm going to let Andy explain what that means.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I hope you have the voluminous copy attached to your packet.
We do.
All 3,432 items. We conduct this inventory annually. It's done by General Services Department. They actually go around physically counting not everything, but most everything that we can find. So this is what we have come up with this year, and the full report is attached.
And just to add to that, we're required by the Audit Act to capitalize only chattels and equipment that cost over $5,000.
Chattels.
Chattels, not chattels, chattels.
And every year we look at this list and go, why do we even have these things anymore? They're so old, but.
And Madam Chair, every year it grows.
And at what point do we get, rid of them?
Oh,
and
we
take
do.
them off here?
There are dispositions, Madam Chair. This year we've disposed of approximately $431,000 worth of equipment.
And do we give that to state and federal surplus, or?
We auction it off.
Auction it off, okay. All right. We
I
have, go
I
ahead.
suspect most of that is technology.
Uh,
Does it get recycled? What happens with that?
The equipment we dispose of?
Yeah.
It's sold at auction, so what happens from there, I'm not sure, but that's where it goes.
And my second question is, how often do we upgrade our hardware?
That's probably a better question for Chris De La Rosa.
Based on the approved policy that we just adopted a couple of months ago, hardware replacement will vary between 4 and 5 years. But right now, most of our equipment are like 7 years.
7 years?
7 years.
Oh.
There are around 200 computers on campus, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not totally accurate about the number, but there are around roughly more than 100 computers for sure. That's around 7 years.
So do you cycle them on a rotating basis, or you
Subject
do it all at once?
Subject for available funds, yes. We prioritize the need, but we're trying to figure out some technology that we can implement or adopt that will not require us to upgrade or replace the computers, but will have a better function for its purpose. So we'll try to figure out how to go away with obsolescence.
So when we look at the prices on here, this is the original price of the item?
The acquisition cost, yes, Madam Chair.
Any other comments, thoughts?
Madam Chair, I know this is, it's getting late and this seems like a obtuse question, but, I'm not really understanding why the board.
It's the law. We have
Okay.
to approve it.
Right. So would we know if something is priced wrong on here? Of the 3,000 items, would we have any way of knowing that? And would we have any way of knowing if there are items missing, which I'm assuming that we're approving it based on that. So I think maybe it would give me a level of comfort if we could talk a little bit about the process. So it's not even us who goes through. I mean, there's barcodes on each of the items that are here in a system, and GSD comes through the state. GSD comes through and scans each of those and puts the list together for us, I'm assuming?
No, we tag the equipment ourselves. General Services tags everything over $1,000 that comes in through receiving.
Okay.
And we're only required to capitalize everything over $5,000.
Okay.
So from there, we then conduct the annual physical inventory. And right now, we have an unofficial policy that if we can't locate something, we wait one more cycle, one more year, to see if perhaps it shows up. If it doesn't show up at that point, then we would dispose of it.
Madam Chair, Member Keith, as part of our regular financial audit, they actually do random sampling to look for equipment. And so they do a random check of our audit system.
Yes, we're required to present this report to the auditors, and they will do random sampling off of it.
So where is the snowplow?
Okay, who else is here who can answer that?
It's obsolete equipment that's basically worn out.
So it's in a storage room somewhere?
Oh, it's out in the field, getting rusted. So
Getting
it's
rusted?
time to get rid of it.
Ah. Okay.
So do we have any way of knowing what's not here, what's missing?
Not yet.
We did not include a report on the items that we weren't able to locate this year, but I do have a list of those items.
Are there a lot?
No, there were not an awful lot, surprisingly.
Any vehicles missing?
No vehicles.
Madam Chair, I move approval of the annual equipment inventory, Part 1 and 2.
Is there a second?
A second.
Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair, in the future, I think it would be really helpful if we could see that list, too, of what's missing. As long as we're being asked to adopt it, that we know exactly what position the college is in terms of what we have here, what its value is, and what it is that we can't find.
Duly noted, Member Keith. We will do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Comment?
Yes.
It seems to me that if something's missing, could it have been stolen? And if it was stolen, somebody that knows that, hey, if it's not here in a year, I'm going to keep it.
Yeah, as to where the item is, we really wouldn't know unless we we have found things in subsequent audits, because they get moved around. Things do get moved around.
Say a laptop.
Yep.
You know, somebody gets a laptop issued to them, or they get one, and they don't bring it back to the college.
Right, now,
And, I mean, and they keep it for another year, and it's theirs.
yeah, member Beta, OIT also has a tagging system for all technology items.
Regarding technology, any kind of technology, regardless of amount, we have a special barcode that we have included in all of those equipment, similar to the one you can see at the back of your iPad. And we have a database that tells us who is the current custodian or holder of that particular technology, whether it is a desktop or a laptop. We are trying to complete the inventory this year for all information technology equipment, so that we can know where they are located. And once we have that database sorted out, once we do our annual inventory of all of our technology equipment, we have an accurate count of how many computers we have, and we have an accurate information regarding which one are lost and who are accountable for those.
And the other thing we're looking at doing is implementing a system whereby we have scanners or wands that we can literally just go into a room and scan the room with a wand, which would automatically find all the items that have been tagged. It would make things a lot easier, because conducting a physical inventory is rather tedious.
So these hundreds of gateway computers from 2004, we actually still have them?
They're on the list, yes.
And are we
Yeah.
using them?
That I can't speak for. I don't know if we're using them or not.
We already retired them from the labs, because we just did it a couple of months ago when we replaced 2 labs.
So
They're still in our storage area, that's why it's still on the list. But once we do the paperwork for disposal, that will be the time that we will fill out the necessary requirements for disposal, and it will be taken off from the list for next year's equipment inventory.
Are they in that basement room with the dirt floor?
Beside the dirt room.
We have 2 rooms downstairs.
Two rooms.
There's a room with cages, and these are probably mostly in the cage.
Okay.
It's not the dirt room, it's the cage.
It's the other one. All right. Let's have a vote. All is in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's see.
We're done.
We are at the information items. So do you want to talk about purchases over 100,000?
Yes.
Less than 300?
There are 2 items on the list this time. One is a contract for $143,631.74. This is an annual Oracle software support and licensing agreement with iApsys. The funding source for that is institutional funds out of the OIT budget. The second is a purchase for $112,457.48. This is a contract with ACOM Technologies to install audio-visual equipment in the Higher Education Center. And that is funded entirely out of the 2013 bond.
And that's an informational only. Any comments, questions about that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Strategic planning update? You have all your staff here.
Not all of my staff, but we do have the IR group, and of course, you know Julie Gallegos, our Planning and Quality Officer. Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. President, good evening. We are here to do a report on our annual progress on the strategic plan. I believe Donna right now is handing out the actual key performance indicators. We have reported in the past, the key performance indicators has been streamlined. This is a report that has been gone through. We've reviewed it with members of the Institutional Planning Committee, and we're happy to stand for any questions.
It's easy. That's a good report, by the way.
Thank you very much. It's really the hard work of the IR staff and Julie, and of course everybody on campus who worked together in collaboration of producing this report. Special thanks to people at this wonderful staff at Marketing and Public Relations who, on a short notice, made this really pretty.
So how do staff and faculty, leads, supervisors, how do they use all of this?
So we'll talk about that? I'll talk. Okay, so we have as you know, many of these key performance indicators are assigned to individual leads. We try to assign to one individual so there isn't a murkiness of who's actually responsible. We then work with them on an annual basis to make sure they have an appropriate strategy in place. And this year, one of the things we're going to be doing is setting up targets so that we want to make sure that they're actually reaching those targets, and if there's any shortfall or any challenges with the strategies, we can identify earlier and make course corrections as necessary. Most of these things, as you can see, we have made a significant progress in Goal 1 and Goal 2. Not so much progress in Goal 3. And mixed results for Goal 4.
Questions? Yes.
As I read your report, one of the things that I was curious about was how you, over time, throughout the year, collect the data that then allows you to give us the update that you do.
Madam Chair, as member of the board, different data items are collected at a different point. A good example would be, for example, fall-to-fall retention rates. That's only collected every fall. So different data points become available at a different time frame, which we could then, of course, include it in the board updates whenever that comes in place. For one of the other reports that we're waiting for is the campus climate survey, which we're hoping to conduct in October. So that would be an example of when we collect this information. One of the other things we're planning to do is, with our partnership with Achieving the Dream, we're planning to actually dive deeper into some of these elements to focus on the target population, such as Hispanic males and Pell eligible students. One of the things we've did with the leadership coach and the data coach when they came yesterday and part of today is we really discussed how can we really dive into the data and then share it with the rest of the campus so it really has meaning. Some of these percentages, when you focus it and change it into actual raw numbers, people will be surprised and how few numbers can make dramatic improvement in terms of our percentages. A good example would be graduation rate. Just 30 more students could increase our graduation rate from 11% to 15, 16%. And so I believe through our collaboration through the Achieving the Dream, as well as using data and sharing this and making it available to the campus, we could really move our student success goals forward.
So when you collect the data, let's say by program, and you look at where students drop off, for example, where does that information go? And how often do you collect it?
So we do collect that information on a semester basis. For example, student productive grade rates. We look at what kind of grade students are getting on a semester-to-semester basis, and we forward that to the deans and the VPAA for review to then disseminate it to the chairs so they could see what kind of courses have a higher rate of success versus too low rate of success and what needs to be done in terms of improving them. Combined with that, one of the things we've been doing through the Office of Planning and Institutional Effectiveness is we've been assisting the Office of Academic Affairs in getting the idea surveys, the evaluation of classrooms, students' evaluation of basically classes back on time so they could use that data as well as the classroom grade data so to get multiple angles to really see what else can we do to really improve the success. In addition, we do provide regular reports for student success, the Division of Student Success for special projects and special classes such as linked courseworks, accelerated courseworks, and see if those courses have at least succeeding at the same level or even higher, so that if we could find early sign of success, then we could then try to spread that throughout the different courses.
And then is that used for course or program improvement? How does that convert?
So that is usually shared with different chairs, leads, faculty members, as well as through the program review process. we have an academic program review process which goes on a 4-year cycle, and we do look at a comprehensive data over a 3-year time frame from number of students who are actually currently enrolled in that particular program, who've declared a major, how well they're doing in terms of passing courses, degree completion, placement into jobs if that data is available. And so the different academic programs review their success rate on a cycle. As well as right now we're going through a process in which we're trying to assist in furthering our learning assessment process to make sure that the students are actually learning the course outcomes as they go along.
Yeah, the problem with program review on a 4-year cycle is that most program improvement cannot occur on a 4-year cycle because it takes too long and students don't get the benefit of what needs to be changed in order to do that. So
absolutely, and that's one of the goals we're doing is we have on that matter is that we're trying to implement the Cognos so that the dashboard becomes a lot more available, so that we don't have to you go through a 4-year cycle for review, so that the chairs and the deans and the faculty members could see that data more real time, and that would be one of our goals for the next coming years.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Kathy?
Just a couple of comments. In areas where we're doing better for a series of years now. So thank you guys for all your work in pulling this data together. I know we see it as a dashboard. It's all neat and pretty, but I know that there's a lot of work that goes behind this. So thank you for all the work that you do. It really makes our job a lot easier. So the number of associate's degrees awarded, we've increased over the last 3 years in doing that in degree completion, which is great. And also the number of certificates awarded, we've increased for the last 3 years. Which is great to be able to see that in action and have that targeted goal and see that we're all working together to make that happen. The other is the dual credit, which is such a shining spot too in our metrics. So those numbers are just exponential growth for us. So if I understand this in our enrollment for dual credit students, we've increased to 58% of all eligible high school students in the Santa Fe Public School District. And that's up from 49% 2 years ago. So I think that that's a great number. That says a lot about our ability to work as an educational system with the Santa Fe Public School System.
Anything else? Do you want to tell us anything else?
You guys want to say anything that you noticed?
One of the interesting things that we did is we had a meeting, it was during the institutional effectiveness meeting last week, where we met with the deans and the chairs and quite a few representatives from faculty and staff. And it was a very open discussion because we can look at the data and tell people what we see, but we don't necessarily have all of the information about what programs are contributing to that. So it was a very beneficial discussion for us to have, because where you notice the certificates have increased, we hear things like, well, yes, we've had an increase in dual credit programs, which have increased those numbers, and the IBES program is doing really well, and we've had additional funding for Pell eligible certificates, which all have contributed. And those are things that we need to hear from a programmatic and academic side that we don't necessarily have on the data side. We're just looking at raw numbers and we don't necessarily have that whole picture. So we're working a lot more collaboratively, which gives, I think, everybody a bigger picture, so that when we present the data, we can have that contextual basis that gives it more meaning.
The only thing I would say in addition to that is that I really would like to see us get retention data throughout the semester. When you wait until the end of the semester to look at you don't know where the drop-offs were, you don't know where in the semester students leave, and therefore you can't figure out why. So, if there was a way that you all could provide us with retention data month to month, that would be really useful.
Is that
possible? It would be useful for us, and I think it would be useful for the academic programs and the student services programs, because then they could see where our gaps are.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Board Member Romero, we actually have a report like that, so we'll be happy to share that at the next board meeting. We have it day by day of when the pupils are withdrawing from classes. And also, we recently did a report to see how many students actually withdrew completely. Tina, would you like to talk about that data real quick, the report we did real quick?
The report also looks at where people are at the point of midterms.
Right.
Do they start registration immediately? What their grade point average was at midterm level. So it gives a running picture throughout the semester. And we should be able to do that for you every semester.
And who gets that in the college?
That would be mostly in the student success area.
And then what do you do with that information in the student success area?
It's not his job.
What?
That's not his job.
I know. But I see Carmen.
Well, but I believe that student success and primarily the first year experience and advisors do regular phone calls for students who actually drop out or gets disenrolled because of lack of payment, and so they do actively call those students to try to get them back to register. Also, there's a system for early alerts that helps our students to make sure that they accept any challenges to get their support they need to be successful. One of the things we've been recently been receiving from some of the faculty members are, can we actually see some of those students who actually dropped? So I think there's even more interest now on the faculty side, which is a very welcoming sign. Mm-hmm. So we really look forward to collaborating with all the different departments in the campus to really move forward that retention agenda as well.
Madam Chair, just to respond, we've looked at some of this data even in our executive team, and so we're trying to look at gaps. So we may have programs that address students that leave in the first 3 weeks, but we've been missing, and so we're looking at, trying to see what are best practices. And this is one of the reasons we rejoined Achieving the Dream too, is to learn from other schools what they're doing. So we're trying to see where our gaps are, and we've got a lot of projects and programs and services in place at different levels, but we do know that there's probably some that we've missed.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, thank you so much for outstanding work. I'm particularly drawn to the employee in the workplace. That's telling, and I can see that you don't have enough data for 13, 14. But for instance, I think we have the right questions in terms of how we ought to be looking at, like, for instance, diversity. Am I empowered to resolve problems quickly? We fell on that particular subject. On the National Community College, that's on the satisfaction rate. We're not too bad. 3.81, and I presume that National Community College is 3.88.
Board Member Cedillo, that would be for 11-12.
That's right.
And unfortunately for the 12-13, it was significantly lower than the community college.
I'll get to that.
Oh, yes, sir. I'm sorry. My apologies.
So we won't see anything till the spring of 2015?
We're planning to administer the next campus climate survey in the October of this year. Okay. The results usually take about a month or two to get back to us, and then there's time for analysis. So we're hoping by the beginning of the spring 2015 semester, we'll be able to provide the report to the board and the campus at large.
Who develops the instruments?
Madam Chair, members of the board, board member Cedillo, the instrument is created by Noel Levitz. It's a national experts in terms of survey designs on various higher education issues. There's another survey that we actually use on a regular basis for in terms of student satisfaction of various services on campus. We've actually did an inventory of different kinds of different options of surveys nationally and found that this one to be the best in terms of the lowest cost and actually one of the best questions. And so we're planning to actually continue to use this particular services for the next survey cycle, in part also so we could compare against previous years and see if we've made any progress in that area.
Okay.
That also is a national database.
And it's helpful for us to determine targets because of that as well. It's benchmarks.
Are any of these questionnaires in Spanish?
Yes. Last year we translated all the questions and asked those staff members we gave people the option to take it in Spanish.
Thank you.
Sure. Anything else? All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Enrollment update.
Madam Chair, Mr. President, members of the board, I need to figure out a new way to do this because it seems pretty straightforward. I would actually like to, in the future, do an enrollment and retention report so that we can take a look at how we're growing and how we're not. So the first one was summer, and of course, we did really well this summer. We grew. And Henry's handing out the latest. I think you might have had one in your notebook from last week. I had one from yesterday that showed the head count at 6.1, and today the head count is at 4.1. So we are going back up pretty rapidly. And what they're doing, there was a disenrollment on July 30th. So a number of students were disenrolled. I'm not sure. They did not pay. So they got disenrolled because they did not pay. Most of the students have been contacted that were disenrolled, and they've enrolled many of them back in. There's another payment deadline on the 20th of August, and all of the students are being sent postcards reminding them to set up a payment plan or check on their financial aid or make their payment in full. And I'm not sure. I think we might even grow this year. I'm not totally thinking we'll be flat. We have still the dual credit students to enroll. They always get enrolled last. We also have short courses that we offer like the middle of the semester. And so depending on how low we are, we could offer more of those short courses. So I feel pretty positive about this. And we had the largest number of NSOs, new student orientation, this year. We had, last spring you voted to have mandatory advising and new student orientation. Well, we did a soft rollout this fall. We will actually have a real rollout where we put holds on people. But in the letters that they received, they said that they were required to come to new student orientation. So I think we had the majority of students come through new student orientation. So I think that'll make a difference too.
And my nephew attended one of those, and he really liked it.
Good.
The toilet paper game.
Oh, but he didn't tell you about his graduation commitment. They all signed a graduation commitment, which was pretty neat. So any questions?
Okay, we're good.
Madam Chair, just to talk about the enrollment, I mean, if you look at fall, head count, we're down about 920 from the final number last year.
Mm-hmm.
We have about 650 to 700 dual credit students who have not enrolled. So the odds of us getting close to flat, at least on our head count, are pretty even. And depending on how many credit hours they take, we could end up either flat or maybe a slightly higher increase. We do have lots of full programs at the moment, though.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
A question. I think it was the student who was talking earlier about the number of courses. I noticed that you have you're down in credit hours, but up in courses. Talk about that a little bit.
You know, I'm not really sure I can talk about that, but I think Randy can talk about it.
Madam Chair, I think that's called passing the buck. But
Yes.
anyway, we have a lot more short-term courses. We keep expanding because we do have the 1-credit first-year experience courses. I think we keep adding more every year because we have more students and we're requiring people to go through them. We are doing more short courses in some areas. And then a lot of times we're doing more internship and apprenticeship type courses, and those are 1-person classes or maybe 2-person classes. And so as we've moved more and more into having students do internships as part of their curriculum, we have a growth there because they count as a section.
So do you count the internship as a course or as a credit hour?
It is a credit hour, and usually it's variable. We have internships that range from 1 to 6 hours. They're variable, and it depends upon what the student has to do. In many of our programs, and I'm of course most familiar with the ones in trades and technology, we did require a minimum of 3 hours of internship as part of most of those degrees. And sometimes they'll do 3 1-credit internships to get a variety of experiences. Sometimes they'll do 1 3-credit internship. And the amount of credits is based upon the number of hours you work as well as the instructional academic work you do along with it. But that is a growing area, is the number of internships and apprenticeships.
Would you like, in the future, for me to bring, like, the recruiters and have them talk to you about what they go out and do in the schools and the state, the city? Okay.
That'd be interesting, yes.
All right.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a quick question right before we go? I don't know that you know this information, and it may not be a fair question, Dr. Gonzalez, so I'm saying that right up front.
Pass it on to.
Okay, pass the buck. Do we know what registration looks like for other schools? I know we talked about this summer that other schools around the state where their enrollment had really dropped, and ours stayed level. Do we know what's going on for the fall enrollment for other schools around the state?
Madam Chair, as member of the board, board member Keith, yes, I've talked to several institutions throughout the New Mexico, mostly 2-year institutions, and their enrollment numbers are going down. I recently talked to my colleague at CNM, and they were concerned at the decline in enrollment. In part, many feel that this is related to the improvement in the economy. Usually when the economy goes up, the enrollment goes down. It's sort of a relationship there. So it is really fortunate that we're really projected to stay flat. That's actually a pretty impressive feat, where everybody else is really going down.
Great, thank you.
Henry, yes?
Chairman Siegel, President and I were at the hearing, the state hearings on Tuesday for capital outlay. And 2 of these colleges were there, New Mexico Highlands and Sonoma College, both of them were down 3 to 5%.
They were down what?
3 to 5%.
3 to 5%.
And Sonoma College and New Mexico Junior College, both of those colleges have mill levy as well as oil and gas mill levy, so they have additional sources of funding than we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I know that Northern is way down, and New Mexico State and all their branches are more than 5%, maybe 8% down. So we're doing pretty good.
Okay.
Thank
good.
you. Thank you.
All right, foundation. Thank you for waiting.
Madam Chair, governing board members, today the foundation transferred nearly $1 million to the college. Very happy to announce. Thank you. This is what we do. And this year we've accelerated our payment. We're paying it faster. Historically, we wait until November after our audit's been completed, but because of some really quick thinking on behalf of our finance director, Diane McGillicott, who decided that she would really take President Grissom's suggestion to heart, which was to find ways to help the college.
she did the math and made a recommendation that we pay early, and not just for 13-14's bill, but for 14-15. So the credit really goes to Diane for her really quick thinking.
Thank you, Diane. Do you have anything else to tell us?
Gee, that's kind of hard news to top.
I know you have more scholarships, or you met the 30 scholarships.
Well, yes, I reported that at the last meeting. We had we met our goal for 30 new scholarships. We have a challenge of $180,000 to match for Title V for our final year of 14-15. So we are intending to match that, and what will generate another $360,000 for new scholarships. So that is moving forward, and certainly we're working on other projects that the president has identified that he would like us to fundraise for. Just wanted to say that we have on the president's calendar every other Wednesday donor cultivation luncheons is what we call them, but it's an opportunity to bring people to the college who maybe are not familiar with it or haven't been here in a while, and to have lunch with the president and then tour the college. Because once people see this, they get very excited about it. We're filling those slots quickly.
Good, good.
And I'd invite all of you to think about whom you would like to bring as guests and share that experience.
Any questions, comments?
Just a big thank you. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Deborah.
We do have a joint meeting with the Foundation Board in November, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
You're working with our board reps and the president.
Yes, we are. We're
develop
very
that
grateful
agenda.
for that. And that should be a wonderful meeting. So we're looking forward to that.
I know one of the things from the consultant that you all hired was the idea of creating a closer relationship with the two boards so that we could work together more. And so I hope we will.
That's correct, and we're very grateful for the really active participation of the two reps, Board Member Romero and Board Member Cedillo. And we just we feel like, and we just met with some of the board members today, that the board is really re-energized and very, very active. So we think that this will be a banner year.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, the next item is the policy, first reading. I don't imagine there's any comments on that. It seems like it's much later than
Yeah, we did a
8
work
o'clock.
session
Yes.
on every one of these, so I think we're okay.
Yes, okay.
So can I ask about what procedure is? Do each one of these need to be read if it's the first reading? Or as long as we've posted them on a public agenda and they're available for being read, does that serve the purpose?
Yes.
Okay.
And then.
Thank you for sparing everyone here.
We spent a lot of
hour and a
time
half
going over them.
of reading each one of these 10-page policies.
I was going to ask for an extra lunch or a snack.
Okay, what happened to our president? Any board reports?
Nope.
Nope.
No.
Our next meeting is September 16th. And I think we do, Chris? Yeah, we'll have a special meeting before that. But we need to go into closed session for the purposes of discussing personnel and potential litigation. Can we have a
Madam
motion?
Chair,
Yeah.
I move that we go into closed session for purposes of discussing pending or threatened litigation and limited personnel matters.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll see you. I don't know. Where do we go, Donna?
Have to go back to the
President's conference room?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all very much for sitting through the meeting and being here.
Take it with me.
Yeah, if you